There's no gentle way to say this. What Prince Harry did to the Queen in her final years is something most wouldn't do to an enemy, let alone a grandmother who loved him. And Meghan, she didn't just let it happen. She seemed to relish it. You can see it in the clips, the smirks, the cold stares, like it was all playing out for her amusement. But to understand the real fracture, we have to rewind. It wasn't about tiaras, tabloids, or even racism. In the beginning, the Queen welcomed Meghan. She was optimistic. She thought Meghan might be a fresh addition. But slowly, like many, she saw another side. Disappointment turned into doubt. And sadly, it fractured her bond with Harry, once her closest grandson. Meghan didn't just want a title. She wanted the spotlight, the kind Diana and Kate earned through years of duty. She wanted the royal balcony kiss, the one reserved for key figures. The Queen said no politely, but firmly. That's when everything cracked. Harry, already burdened by years of being the spare, exploded not at the press, not at his brother, but at the one person who always stood by him. And this wasn't quiet disagreement. It was a loud, aggressive outburst. The Queen even remarked that Harry seemed too in love, too weak, too controlled. Harry lashed out, berated her, turned personal. It was beyond emotional, it was abusive. And Meghan, witnesses say, just watched and smiled. The Queen, fragile, aging, still doing her duty, just sat there and took it. That's not just disrespect, it's cruelty, and it gets worse. While headlines obsessed over dress fittings and tiaras, what they skip is that the Queen gave them everything: a charity platform, Commonwealth titles, even made Meghan vice president. She gave her over $1 million in wardrobe budget, more than any royal woman in Europe. She tried, really tried, to make Meghan feel welcome, but it was never enough. Meanwhile, Harry wore his medals like war trophies, when most were ceremonial gifts from the Queen. The only real one, a basic service badge. No combat, no valor. And still, he strutted like a hero. Insiders even claim he was pulled from a base just before a surprise drug test. Shielded once again. Meghan. She wasn't passive. She was driven, demanding, image-obsessed. And what sparked Harry's rage wasn't racism or rejection, it was that balcony. That one denied moment. That symbol of not being Diana, of not being royal enough. Instead of walking away with dignity, Harry lashed out at the one woman who'd always loved him unconditionally. And Meghan, she just stood there, watching the Queen cry like it was a scene from a drama she'd already seen the ending to. Prince Charles wasn't even in the room when it happened. Yet when the fallout hit, it was him the palace turned to. The fixer. Always the one trying to hold a crumbling institution together with silence and hope. So, true to form, he said nothing. No defense for his mother. No confrontation with his son. Just more quiet, more denial. But silence doesn't erase memory. The staff remembered. William knew, and Meghan. She realized she'd crossed a line and gotten away with it. But someone else saw it all too. Prince Andrew. Say what you want about him, and there's plenty, but in that moment, he wasn't playing along. At one farewell procession, every royal gave Harry and Meghan a polite nod, all except Andrew. He just stared at Meghan, stone-faced. No wave, no smile. Just something cold, familiar. Recognition, not shock, not disbelief. Just that look you give someone when you've already seen behind the mask. The Queen, for all her strength, wasn't immune to the emotional toll. This wasn't politics. This was personal. Harry was her soft spot. After Diana's death, she stepped and gave him comfort, protection, a place. He wasn't the heir, but he was still hers. And now, he was yelling at her like she was the villain in his story. This wasn't rebellion. This was betrayal, okay? Meghan knew exactly how to spin it, playing the victim, convincing Harry that his happiness meant burning down everything behind him. And then came Catherine. People see her as calm, collected, but make no mistake, she's forged in fire. The racism Meghan claimed. Catherine took worse. And she never ran to Oprah. She never made a Netflix confession. She kept her head down and carried on. And still, Meghan made her a target not because Catherine wronged her, but because she outshined her. The Queen saw it too. In letters, in notes, she used the word trusted for Catherine. A word she didn't use lightly. Meghan noticed and it stung. The fight that got physical wasn't about Catherine. It was about the Queen. When William learned what Harry had said to her, how he tore into her during her most vulnerable time, he snapped. That's when the necklace incident happened. This wasn't about Meghan. This was about a grandson humiliating the woman who raised them both. William's anger wasn't petty, it was righteous. Eyed Harry. He didn't flinch. He doubled down, convinced he was the one being wronged. Meanwhile, the wedding that was once sold as a modern fairy tale became a money pit. $40 million in security, over $1 million in clothing, and still, Meghan wanted more. Perfumed churches, tiara demands, fights with aides. For someone who claimed to be rejected by the crown, she sure acted like she owned it. And when the Queen finally said no truly, firmly, that's when it all shattered. Not because Meghan was mistreated, but because someone finally drew a boundary. The Queen's final days should have been peaceful. They weren't. As her health declined, she reached out to Harry. Not as monarch, but as grandma. She asked to see him, just him. One last time, but he refused. Or rather, Meghan refused for him. If I don't go, you don't go. And just like that, the Queen's last wish was denied. Not by duty, not by distance, but by control. Harry chose his partner over his blood event, as death stood at the door. What kind of man does that? Man lost in delusion. A man who rewrote his story, so he could always be the victim. He didn't just miss that final moment, he made it worse, cause there was a phone call. And instead of warmth, he gave her blame, anger, coldness. He scolded her for the balcony. It's for Meghan's place. For decisions that were never personal. That was the last time she heard his voice, and it wasn't kind. That memory stayed with her until the end. Some still say Harry's military service was his saving grace, but ask the veterans. He wasn't on the front lines. He wasn't saving lives. He was guarded, always protected, always royal. Asterisk. The medals on Harry's chest, mostly honorary. Yet he struts around, chest puffed, smirk in place, like he stood shoulder to shoulder with real heroes. It's a slap in the face to the soldiers who saw him flown out just before surprise. Drug tests. The same guy who partied with underage girls, dodged fallout, and polished his image like he was directing his own docuseries. And Meghan? Played the long game. From Hollywood red carpets to royal corridors, it was always about controlling the narrative. She wanted Diana's legacy without Diana's journey. The crown, minus the weight. The glamour, minus the grind. And when it didn't come easy, she burned the bridges behind her and called it survival. But survivors don't make icons cry. Survivors don't stand silent, smiling, while a woman nearing the end of her life is broken down. That's not resilience. That's something far colder. William never gave an interview, never aired it out. But you can see it in his eyes when her name comes up. That's not frustration. That's fury, because he witnessed it. He heard the shouting. He saw the Queen, his grandmother, the family's anchor, crumble. And he knows exactly who lit the match. That's why he lost it. That's why the necklace snapped. That's why there's no healing from this. The Queen gave Meghan everything: titles, designer budgets, high-profile roles. She even made her vice president of a trust she built for Harry. And how was that generosity repaid? By turning her final chapter into chaos. By shrinking a lifetime of service into headlines. And by helping Harry twist the knife that finally broke her heart. This wasn't just a royal rift. It was a human heartbreak. It's a woman who gave her life to duty, should have left this world with grace and peace. Not with tears in her eyes. Not mourning a grandson who forgot who he was. The queen was many things monarch symbol, legend, but most of all, she was a grandmother. And in the end, they shattered her.